Karan, we are good to go.
All right, Dharma, in a minute. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. And on behalf of the Economic Times, I welcome all of you to this virtual edition of the Economic Times Money Gurukul, where we will be looking at personal finance in these unprecedented, tumultuous times that have come to define 2020. I admit that pondering investments in the midst of what is the biggest economic meltdown of many a decade, or even investment history, is a very peculiar thing to do. But yet, here we are. If you think about it, though, the timing may actually be excellent. Given the broad contours of the discussions that are going to come up, how not to invest as much as how to invest, what better time could there be to wade in right now? If you're a seasoned investor, the past few months most likely have seen you running for cover. The market has been pounded, and justifiably so. The whole strategy of governments to contain COVID-19 involves essentially shutting down very large sectors of the economy entirely. One can easily surmise that several industries like hospitality, tourism, air travel, to name a few, are in big trouble. The problem is determining how far the rot goes. If an airline fails, or if many of them fail, what industries does it take down along with it? In a highly interconnected global economy, the answers aren't always clear. So rather than just panic and throw in the towel, it's prudent to not hyperventilate and ponder things too much, and to consider this entire investing landscape without the lens of panic. First, the beating taken by the stock market has simply erased some of the extraordinary gains we've seen in the past several years. Today's data points might look like a little bit of a disaster relative to the value of the portfolio 4 months ago, but a course correction was somewhat expected. Not something quite like this, of course, because this was entirely unforeseen, but something of some kind. Second of all, governments around the world now have an arsenal of tools with which they can stabilize economies, or more like they have a variety of smaller tools and one very big one. This great big printing press to crank out money and to shovel into the economy's engines. Unfortunately, this is not something available to any of us, not legally, at any rate, anyways. So, where does that leave us then? Governments in this consumption based world can see the perils of allowing huge swaths of the global economy to perish. We may sneer at a consumer based culture, but we wet our pants when we consider the alternative. What we really need to learn to do is to do things as cleanly as possible with a long term perspective. But nowhere in the world does anybody want to see any industry grind to a halt, or anybody not to be investing in the markets as they used to, or to stop buying automobiles or any other mainstay of the economy as we knew it, say, 5, 6 months back. This is a challenging time to consider investing again, not just to build wealth, but to start creating a means for a second source of income from a long term perspective. There is, of course, risk that the markets would continue to fall based on the fact that there is so much uncertainty in the world with respect to demand erosion, with respect to recovery timing. But if the big blue chip companies that provide our industrial lifelines go defunct and irreparably damage your portfolio, well, we'll all have much, much bigger problems to worry about at any rate, which brings us to the year and now. And if you can take one thing away from the last few minutes when I've been talking, let it be this: the markets are not going to stop falling.
Karan, it's not audible. There is network issue at your end. Good morning. I think we have lost Karan there. Not to waste the time, I just thank you so much, Karan. Good morning to everyone. I'm KS Rao from Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management Company. Indeed, it's an honor to be here with Money Gurukul. We partner with Money Gurukul over a period of last 5 years. This is the fourth edition of Money Gurukul, and indeed, glad to be here with me today. I have my good friend, author, speaker, Amit Trivedi, and it will be going to be a wonderful session with Amit ji. It's always great to listen to Amit ji. Welcome back, and glad you made this morning to be here part of this session. And Money Gurukul, whenever it comes to our mind, and today is a very interesting day. Tomorrow we are going to celebrate on 5th September is a Teachers' Day. And today it is a Money Gurukul special session. We are running it around. It's like it's like we tomorrow's teacher I invited today, that is Amit is going to address, and Karan is back. Karan, I think since you have last I took over, is it okay I can continue, or you would like to continue on that where you left? Still it is
So
freezed.
I was pretty much done. I was actually just going to introduce you as our next speaker. So of course, I apologize for that. Technology has its own teething troubles, as we've all come to know and learn so well over the course of these last 6-7 months, perhaps in greater detail than ever before. In any case, we have with us an eminent panel of speakers. Up next, we have with us Mr. K.S. Rao, who is the one second. We have today Mr. Amit Trivedi, Mr. K.S. Rao. They are keen to show us all a way forward and how to invest through all of this. Mr. Rao is the Senior Vice President and the Head of Investor Education and Distribution Development at Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC, as some of us might well know from previous editions of Money Gurukul. Right after, we have Mr. Amit Trivedi, who's an author, speaker, blogger, and trainer. And together, they'll be taking us through the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts, and everything you need to know about the world of investing and personal finance to make it work for you. I'm sure all of us are very, very eager to get started. So without further ado, over to you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thanks. I think, yeah, technology always, we are not still got used to this, and probably India need to get on infrastructure. And we talk about the portfolio diversification. Probably we need to keep multiple connectivities and work on it, and it's a pure way. And welcome back once again. I was just talking to each one of you on a Gurukul as a concept. In Indian context, Gurukul was the place where people used to go and learn. And in fact, I had a privilege. My great grandfather used to have a Gurukul, and we were in that part of that ashram where we have grown, and we used to learn only 3 words in a day from the Gurukul. The morning students will come, which is they all there will be a teaching which happens, which is called in Sanskrit is Adhyayan. And after that morning session, they will go back, they will have their breakfast, and they spend in the off a day, that is they will do a Svalochan. Whatever you learnt in the morning, you are going to introspect in the afternoon, and evening again you come back for the session, and that evening session they call it the Swadhyaya. It is like what you learnt you are going to apply in your life. And probably for Money Gurukul, I can't say very different now. I think we all need to get that Adhyayan, and it's a study, and then we need to do Swalochan. It is a like you need to think on your own. I think Amit always keeps saying, when it comes to personal finance, he says person comes before the finance, and that is the reason we all need to have a Swalochan. It's a like money for me is a very different context, and money for each one of us is very different. Even in the current scenario of a COVID, I mean, it has impacted us, each one of us, very differently, and we need to have Swalochan. What is that I can do? What is my priority? How do I look at my investments very differently? And last one is to look Swadhyay. It is like, where my money is there. Am I investing it rightly? Is it working for me? Do I need to make some changes? And what are the things I need to look at? I think these are the one we take it. And of course, I mean, I think Karan already spoke to us how COVID has disrupted each one of us. Yeah, it is disrupted very badly, and it has impacted many of us. There is hardly anyone who is not got impacted, and it's for many of us in the last 6 months it's a pause button. But unfortunately life does not have a pause button, and life is not having a rewind button, and life is not having a fast forward button, and life is always having a play button. And today we need to play how we can play with our money and how we can make our careers better. I mean, 4 months 5 months before, when we were talking about 6 months before, we were always talking about our life. Thereafter people started talking about livelihood, Jan Jahan, and then we are talking about lifestyles. Today our lifestyles have undergone change, and our livelihood has undergone change, and let us see how we can look forward. And each of us are very different. Before I run on the presentation, I would like to have on the chat box, good morning to you, each one of you once again. First thing I would like to ask is, are we audible to you? If it is audible, please put Y, S. And then you can use the chat box, and you can use, if you are we clearly audible, so that we can change. Thank you so much, Ankit. Thank you, Ameya. Thanks, Kiru. Thanks, Kamlesh. And it's fantastic. And thanks, Santosh. It's a great trip. I think, thank you so much. I think we are perfectly audible. We are on the same pace. And if not, we are in the same place of working. and let will be good. I trust each one of you are doing pretty great with your families, and life is equally good for each one of you. And God is kind, and we are all very comfortably still talking on it. And and I'm sure each one of you also comfortable. And as I move forward, just I will run with my quick presentation. We will run through, and me and Amit will take care around that. And what we will do is. Yeah, what we are going to do is next 20 to 30 minutes max, we will be running a quick presentation and a capsule. What is that? How do we manage personal finance during unprecedented times? There are three terms which are very clear here. One is the personal finance. That is, I as already said, Amit Bhai always says the person before finances. How you need to manage yourself and your finances. And this is an unprecedented times. Since it is unprecedented, there is nothing we knew in the past, nothing we can predict for the future. All that we need to do is how we can prepare for it and how we need to work on this and how the COVID has impacted for us, and how we are living, how we need to manage. It is sometimes we got used to this kind of lifestyle now, but what is, as we go forward, how we need to change. And the money is the most important component, how we need to look at to handle things very differently. And of course, like today, most of us, I remember 5 months back when I was looking at my own portfolio, it was a lot of anxiety. It's what is going to happen, and there was a lot of uncertainty, what is going to handle. And there was a queries of our own health and health insurance too. And there is a fears about loss of income, jobs. Now things are fairly clear. We have just opened. There is an unlocking, which is we talk about the unlock which has happened now at this point of time. And during this unlock, how do we need to revisit and what kind of things we need to do? We look at forward. As I just go forward, just to keep a context, money always speaks only one language, right? And money doesn't know whether it is unprecedented times or precedented times. And if I in normal in a in an auditorium where we used to address, I used to ask these questions to the audience: money speaks which language? Of course, my colleague, my friend Amit ji is there. He is from the state of Gujarat, and he may say money speaks Gujarati. Money doesn't speak neither Gujarati nor Hindi nor English, but money speaks one language. That one language for all of us is, if you save me today, I will save you tomorrow. And there is also an Indian context to it. In Sanskrit, we call it is a suvinyogat samruddhi. When you manage your finances, it gives the prosperity. And whichever the conditions we have, whichever the time we are facing, how you need to manage your finances is the most important and most critical for us at this point to take a call. What is that? How I can manage my finances? I think, with this, now right now there is a lot of things are getting into the mind, and everyday news and latest news last few days, the pain is much higher for us. And the moment I open my economic times, probably I get lost in the morning. What is going to happen? Few days back, I used to see those cases. These are the number of cases reported, and after some time we forgot that, the moment it has become to tens, hundreds, we started counting. When it goes to lakhs, then we said that's a number. But it has impacted our neighborhood, it has impacted our colleague, it has impacted our relative, then it has pained us a lot. And this is what things out. But if it looking at economy side, there is suddenly, we have seen the news last quarter GDP, it's huge shrink of the GDP, which is unprecedented fall. I think since independence, this is never people have seen this. And the biggest contraction over the last 40 years, I think it's the second time we are seeing this kind of contraction. But what it means for us and how we need to manage, like there is the economy one side, our own personal concerns, then how I need to look at my money very differently and what will happen now. I'll invite here good friend Amit ji, and Amit ji is an author. And let me tell you three of his books which has given a profound impact. The first book which I can talk always about, it's roller coaster ride. And it's markets are roller coaster ride, but how you can enjoy and have the fun around that. And he himself was in ICU, and personal finance, how you need to manage in ICU. Today, unfortunately or fortunately, entire world is in ICU. What is that ICU for me is, we are impacted by coronavirus universally. Let me invite Amit Bhai to take over. What is that his lessons and he can teach us at this point. Amit ji, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir, and thanks for this opportunity to speak to people out here. big thanks to ET Gurukul also for this Money Gurukul opportunity. And as Mr. Rao was mentioning, tomorrow is the Teachers' Day, and today we are sitting in a Gurukul. So that's a phenomenal opportunity. So let me just start from where Mr. Rao left. And because the GDP has fallen by this percentage, and these are reported numbers, I was also looking at the history of India since the liberalization began in 1991. And I was surprised to see that from 1991 till now, which is almost 3 decades, 30 years, and this is the first time that the GDP has registered negative growth. Not a single quarter of negative growth in such a long period. Now, when the economy is down, when the the stress is visible, we use this term like unprecedented. But when there is a rising trend for 30 long years, we don't call it unprecedented. I mean, we hardly see such long bull runs also. Not justifying it, it's just putting it in context. But the logical question is what will happen now? And then I'll quote from one of the books that I've written, Riding the Roller Coaster, where it's mentioned that, the only thing that I cannot predict is the future. So then what are we doing? I mean, why are we even talking? If I don't know what is likely to happen, why have the discussion at all? Well, that discussion becomes very important, because if I can't predict, what can I do? Is I can protect myself and prepare. Now, this protection, because we are in the discussion of personal finances, one of the most popular products in personal finance happens to be insurance. Two types of insurance are very widely bought by people. One is the life insurance, and second is the health insurance. Let me take the example of life insurance. Death is certain, the date is not certain. So something is likely to happen. When will it happen is the uncertain part. And in that case, in order to protect the family members from the untimely death of the bread earner, is when you buy a protection in form of a life insurance policy. Or can there be a health related problem? Yes, there can be a health related problem. Who will fall sick? No idea. Who would be hospitalized? No idea. Will that happen next year, or it will happen in 5 years? No idea. So there is a possibility that this can happen, a negative outcome. Yes, it is possible. What do you do in that case? You protect yourself by buying a health insurance policy. Financially protect yourself. Let me put it this way, it's not medically protect or health wise you can't protect by buying a health insurance policy. It's the financial protection. But at the same time, the word protection is used in the context of a downside in both these examples of the insurance policies. But please remember that protection from risk or the downside does not equal to losing opportunities. It is not about losing opportunities. The whole subject of risk management is all about exploiting the opportunities, grabbing the opportunities, while simultaneously guarding oneself against the risks. And for that, let's put the whole thing into a structure. Now, Rao sir already mentioned a couple of times about the subject that we are dealing with is personal finance. And in case of personal finance, a lot of times I've experienced that people ask very specific questions about their portfolios. My simple request to you would be, because this is personal finance, take specific advice only from people who know your personal situation. From people like us who don't know about your personal situation, take the guiding principles use those guiding principles and then do the swadhyay, as Rao sir was mentioning. Apply those principles in your day-to-day life, in your finances, or when you are discussing with your advisor. Use those lessons in making that conversation better, which will eventually make your personal finance situation also that much better. So if you can't predict, you can protect yourself and you can prepare to exploit the opportunities or grab the opportunities. And for that, let me put a simple 4 steps bring these 4 steps into picture. As you can see, it starts with management of liquidity. Now, what is management of liquidity? Let me look at the current context when a large number of people are facing a drop in income. Some people are even facing loss of income. Now, this income was useful in meeting the day-to-day expenses. When the income reduces or stops, how do we take care of those day-to-day expenses? That's when some liquidity is required. And I believe in last 6 months, a lot of people have heard a phrase called contingency fund, probably for the first time in their life. Yes, and I'm also referring to the same contingency fund when I talk about liquidity. We'll go to liquidity and deal with it in a slightly more detail in the next slide. But from liquidity, we move on to risk management. Once again, this risk is about, and I already used 2 examples of life insurance and health insurance, so we'll go further on that. And then comes the question of funding your life's financial goals. It is here that I would stop for a moment to understand what goals are in my in my context. Of late, media has done a phenomenal job in educating the Indians about keeping the goals central to their building their investment portfolios, that you invest to achieve certain goals, and all these goals are mostly talked about are retirement, buying a vehicle, getting the kids educated, marriage of the kids, buying a house, buying a vehicle, upgrading a vehicle, renovation of house, foreign vacation, local vacation, and many other such examples. What is common in all these examples in terms of finances is that all these are examples of an expense which one has to incur sometime in future. Let me call it a deferred expense. It is the deferred expense for which one needs to save today. And if you save today properly, and let me go back to what Rao sir mentioned, the language that money speaks. If you save me today, I will save you tomorrow. That's fine, but what am I supposed to save the money from? And we are supposed to save the money from 3 things. If you have a pen and paper with you, I would strongly urge that please write down these 3 things from which you need to save money. Number 1, from wrong or sort of exorbitant or unrequired expenses. That's number 1. That's probably the first guess of almost everybody. But second is, which a lot of people don't consider, you got to save your money from incorrect and inappropriate investments also. What are incorrect or inappropriate investments? In the scenarios like today, when the interest rates are down, when the equity markets, even 10-year returns are single digit, in such cases, there is a tendency to look for investments that promise to give very high returns. And we tend to look at that high return with a combination of safety. If somebody promises you that very high returns are possible with absolute safety of principle, my sincere request to all of you would be hide your checkbook and run away from that person. That's as mythical as anything that you've seen. So you've got to save yourself from those kind of investments where somebody is promising very high returns at zero risk or low risk. Number two, you also got to protect yourself, your money, rather save your money from certain investments which are excellent in terms of protecting the principal value, but the investment returns are less than inflation. And over a long term, if you're, and when I say long term in this context, it's like 15, 20, 30 years, where a 30-year-old may be planning for retirement. So 30 to 60 is 30 long years, and then one is also likely to live for another 30 years in retirement. You're talking about very long periods. And in such long periods, if your investment earns less than inflation, then over a period of time, the purchasing power of your money goes down. So if you not saved the money in a right manner, that money will not be able to save you then. So that's the second point. First is unnecessary expenses. Second is inappropriate or incorrect investments. And third is your own emotional ups and downs. So when we go from here to here, and partly this second and third are also related. If I'm too greedy, I'll go for the investments which promise very high returns. If I'm fearful, I'll go for investments where the returns are extremely poor. Very, very possible. So I need to save money from that also. Expenses, investments, and my emotion. Is nothing but funding your future expenses. And then comes the fourth one, which is wealth transfer. So let's take each one in slightly more detail. And what do we mean by liquidity management or contingency fund? The first thing that you take a look at is the status of your monthly expenses. I can tell you that simply because of the lockdown and because I don't have to move out a lot, some of my monthly expenses have come down. For example, living in Mumbai, and I used to travel by car, the conveyance charges were pretty high. Car maintenance and the petrol and the driver's salary was pretty high. Last 6 months, I have not stepped out of the house. I've saved on that expense. Yeah. So think about it. I mean, there could be many other examples that you can think of. Now it is up to you whether to restore those expenses back to the pre-COVID levels whenever things open up properly, or will you be able to maintain the lower expenses now that the lifestyle has changed? Think about it, because that is related to liquidity management. Typical recommendation from most financial advisors or financial planners is that you need to keep roughly 3 months or 6 months worth of expenses as your contingency fund. Now, if the level of expenses has gone up or down, your contingency fund also needs to be altered. However, the other point that you need to look at is related to the income side, the other side of the cash flow. And there, these 2 points come in. Is there a drop in income, or is there a risk that the income may be dropped or income may be lost? So there are certain industries which have been impacted negatively. Some people have unfortunately lost job, or salaries have been cut in a few cases. In both these cases, one needs to reassess and now compare the income versus expenses. If the income is dropped by 20% and the expenses have also dropped by 20%, then one is not in a very difficult situation, because even now, even with that drop, your saving ability continues. However, if your income is dropped by 20% and expenses have not dropped at all, then you need to reassess your finances. If the income is dropped, or if you lost income completely, be it a business income or a salary from job, then evaluate, sit down. And this is not about investment, this is about your personal situation. Sit down and evaluate. And if you need to take help of some seniors in the industry, some people who have been there for years, just talk to them. They would be able to give you a perspective, if not guide you completely. How much time would it take for you to go back to the previous levels of income? Will it take 3 months? Will it take 3 years? Just do an assessment of that and be as honest as possible in this assessment, because that would help you determine how much liquidity you require. Let me take an example which is slightly different from the current situation, but exactly related in terms of cash flow. If somebody wants to quit a job and start business, how much money should one have in buffer? And that money is a function of somebody quitting a job which is regular income to starting a business where for the initial few months or years there'll be no income. You've got to fund the household expenses during that period. That's where the contingency fund comes in, and that's why this assessment becomes very important. Third, are you sufficiently insured? So as the main bread earner, were you sufficiently insured in terms of your life? Do you have sufficient health insurance? And if you don't have health insurance, additional contingency fund is required, because of course you can always go and buy health insurance, but if for some reason it's not available, then it is like self-insurance and you need to take care of that. I strongly recommend that you try and buy the insurance first. Don't build your contingency fund. Get the insurance first. And of course, then if there are any loans, of course, this moratorium period is going on at least till 30th September. We don't know what will happen after that, but whatever happens, even if you opted for moratorium, when the moratorium period gets over, all the past EMIs would become, the EMIs would become due. All the past EMIs plus the interest thereon also needs to be paid in some form. It may be over a period of time, but you got to pay. So the meter will start ticking now. If there's a drop in income, then there's not a commensurate drop in the EMIs, simply because either the EMI has gone up because of the accumulated interest over the last 6 months, and I'm talking about somebody who's opted for moratorium, or the term of the insurance might have gone up. So, or the term has gone up, or the EMI amount has gone up. So either ways, you got to pay that interest also for that whatever period you opted the moratorium for. And that assessment would help you arrive at a number that you need in the contingency fund. If you have that contingency fund, great. You've done sound planning as a base. If you don't have, do you need to consider liquidating some of your investments? Think about it. Talk to somebody. Talk to a financial advisor. Take help. So this liquidity is part one. The next step in the ladder is risk management. And this is all about taking insurance. And you start with health insurance. We already discussed partially, but this is critical. Very, very important. You start with health insurance, consider disability insurance, and then you also need to have life insurance for the earning members of the family. A lot of times people take insurance up to 100 years of life. Not required. If you decide to retire at 70, life insurance is not required beyond that age. Life insurance is compensating, or rather a replacement of the earning member of the family if the member dies during the earning years. So if somebody is already retired and not earning anything, that income need not be replaced. Number two, if somebody is dependent on that income, then that income needs to be, that person needs to be insured in terms of life. If that person's income nobody is dependent on, then again life insurance is not required. And fourth is whatever asset you gathered, insurance on that asset is also required. So with that, let's now move on to the next slide, and Mr. Rao would take over. Sir, do you want to share your slide, or this is fine? No, you are on mute, sir.
I'll share from here. That would be a better way.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Amit. Indeed, it was great insight for everyone. It's for even I was just looking at how to focus on few things, how you can take care of your debt first, and how you need to manage. And now when it comes to the risk, most of us how we can assess the risk currently, and each of us again as a personal finance. Finance is personal to us, and risk is also equally personal to us. If you can put a simple paradigm here, and if you want to go back and draw it home, what you need to look at, and what is your existing financial circumstances talking about, what kind of risk appetite you have depending on your current position, and your time horizon for the goal. Normally, whenever we are investing money, we are investing for the goals, and it's a currently we need to go back and see which goal is most important and what kind of portfolio I need to look at. I used to call to the people, there is a in a current scenario, my goals, there are three kinds of there are 3D to my goal. Each of my goal, I put it in 3Ds. One is how I can downsize if the things are not right, or how I can defer, or how I can dump if it is not important. But what is important for me is right now, I think Amit said on the contingency fund or the cash reserve fund, or it's the emergency fund which we call, which is earlier we used to talk about something around 3 to 6 months of the your spending. I mean, which includes your insurance premium, includes your debt servicing. In the current scenario of the COVID, probably one need to look 12 to 6 to 24 months of contingency fund, and this you can build over a period of time. Here you can look at under these three things, how you can, what are the investments suitable to you, and what are the avenues available to you, and how you can make that avenues and where you want to invest. But if you come into the contingency fund is one, then how you can come into that bucket there, and how you can look at your risk assessment metric is in this scenario, your existing financial circumstances, and what are your unsuitable investment avenues. Then you eliminate that part, then go back where you want. For example, your contingency fund can go to the liquid funds of the mutual funds, or you want to fix a deposit where it can be readily available to you, or part of it can be your cash. How you can look at assessing your risk. And all that you need to do is your time horizon for the goal. And if the goal is a little longer, you need to spread, you can do that. And if your risk appetite, how much you can take, how much your risk appetite has come down, then you can reassess these. And with this scenario, if you can go, and whatever the goals you have, one is, what is the different investment objective. Most of us, when we are going back and talking to many investors today, and we get to know, first of all, we do not have a clear clarity on our financial goals. And what could be our bigger investment goals at this point of time? The first thing will come, the unprecedented times, is to keep my contingency fund. That is the intelligent way I can look at. But that how I can get my financial resources to it, and what are my other goals in my life, and what is that my time horizon to it. Probably in the next 6 months, if I want to build my contingency fund, can I park some money every month into the liquid fund? Or if I have my retirement goal, how I can look next 10 years, next 15 years, what are the things, how I need to do, this is my goal, and this is my time horizon, how I can put it. Probably we are doing a separate session on the retirement planning with Money Gurukul little later with Amit ji and couple of other friends who can come and tell us. And apart from that, what we need to do at this point is what kind of financial resources. And COVID has given a rehearsal to our life. Our lifestyle expenses are very, very high, and how I can make my lifestyle very differently, and what is that I can do very differently, and how I can save more. Probably, spend on needs first, and spend on needs first and wants later, on the waste expenditure never. Probably we know the precious time and precious value of the money, how intelligently we can look at, then every goal of us we can accomplish. Probably some of the goals we may differ, some of the goal we may need to fund urgently, and health insurance could be my immediate urgent goal. My relooking at my insurance could be other goal. But taking this into queue, and there is always a financial planning pyramid. First, you ensure your wealth protection. It's a you're protecting it. I used to call when I was coming on the Money Gurukul on ground programs. One need to follow the 4G of the money. First, you need to get your money, grow your money, guard your money, and give your money. This exactly comes with it. Wealth protection. Protect what you have. Like your money is your hard-earned money. You need to protect. Like the way Amit ji said about your life insurance, your health insurance, and your money. What is that? At this point of the time, I don't want to lose any money. My every rupee is more value to me, and how I need to look at my money in a very different way. Then the second one is, then I look at how I can create my wealth, what kind of risk I have taken in the metrics which we spoke earlier, and how I can make my investment working for me so that I can create substantial wealth, and each of my investment goal is funded, and each of my goal is giving substantial money to me. And the last one is the wealth distribution. Earlier, Amit ji was talking about the will and estate planning, how we want to transfer our wealth. And with this pyramid, again, I can invite Amit ji to talk to us on funding these goals, how we can do it. Amit ji, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Rao sir. What you can see on the slide right now are three different circles, and let me just explain why the three circles are there. The top two, which is the blue circle stating loans and the red circle stating investments, are the two approaches or two ways of funding your goals. You can either save money, invest properly, and fund your goals in future. But if you don't have enough accumulation till then in that case, there is another route which is available, and that is loans. One needs to trade very carefully when it comes to both these, because the fundamental difference between the two is when it comes to investments, and you probably are quite a few of you could be familiar with the standard disclaimer that you see in mutual fund advertisements, that mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Now, incidentally, this is just a representative statement. I would like to have a slightly broader statement saying all investments are subject to some risks. Investment is all about risk, and that means how much returns you will generate over a period of time is always uncertain. Some of you might be wondering that no, that's incorrect, because there are guaranteed return products. Of course, there are guaranteed return products, but the moment you factor for inflation and taxes, then you don't know how much will you retain after inflation and taxes, because inflation in the future is an uncertain number. What you know is the inflation of the past. If I put money in a bank deposit which gives me 6% over the next whatever number of years, I don't know what is going to be the inflation of over that whatever number of years. So fixed deposit returns minus inflation is still an uncertain number. So please understand that all the investment returns are uncertain. Whether you will get high returns or low returns, positive returns or negative returns, that remains uncertain. On the other hand, funding through loans only means that your expenses related to servicing the loan are certain, that you have to service. So when you borrow money, there is a certainty that you to incur some expense in future. When you invest, the investment returns are uncertain. So this is the reality of life, and that's where you need to trade carefully. Number two, if I take a simple example of going to a bank for two purposes. One is opening a deposit, and second, borrowing money for something. Those of you who tried it out know for sure that a bank offers, if you go to the same bank for that means, if the bank offers lower interest rate on the deposit in comparison to the interest they charge on the loan. And that's how banks remain in business. If they charge more and pay less, they are profitable. But if the bank is profitable, as a bank consumer, my cost of borrowing is always high compared to my return on fixed deposits. The moment I want to increase my investment returns from the bank deposits upwards, then I got to start taking certain risks. This rule is fundamental truth of the business of personal finance. And if that's the case, should you borrow, should you invest, or do you take a combination of the two? That becomes a very interesting and important decision that we need to take in life. Be very careful. Take those risks that you understand. If you don't understand the risk, it is better to go slow, take time to understand what risk you are taking, and then only put the foot forward. in many seminars and conferences, when I speak this kind of language, people come and ask me, this is an investment program. You are not talking about returns, you are only talking about risk. Yeah, but precisely, whenever you look at the subject of investment, over last almost 3 decades of experience, what I've understood is people who have chased returns have often landed up with risk, and people who have managed risk properly, they've ended up with the returns that the respective investment has to offer. So this, again, a relation between the risk and return is also very, very clear here. So you look at loans and investments, strike a balance between the two. When you look at loans, consider those loans where there is either a potential increase in income. For example, taking an education loan for a young child is a good idea for graduation, post-graduation, because through that education, the earning ability goes up. Taking loan for setting a business is a good idea because your business can produce more goods and create more profits. Good idea. Or rather, it could be a good loan. Taking a loan for creating an asset like a home. So home loan, because by taking a home loan, you are buying a house where you are going to stay. So you save on the expense called rent. You also create an asset which is a shelter, and where you can live a comfortable life. That could be a good loan. But some of the loans may, and I'm saying may, I'm not saying all are bad. Some of the loans may be bad loans if you want to spend something on leisure today, you don't have money, you borrow so that in future you have to pay more for the same leisure. Why more? Because it's the loan amount plus the interest. That could be a bad idea. If you are investing in a second house and not going to use it, or you are not even going to give it on rent, it could be a bad idea. An unproductive asset is not a good idea. So be careful about taking loans. Take good loans, avoid bad loans, but stay within limits. Then that brings me to the third oval that you can see on this slide, which is charity. You know, these are times where extremes have happened, and it's a 100-year phenomenon. Half the world was locked down, or probably more than half the world was locked down. We were not moving on the outside the house except for the essential services. We haven't seen these times. And when you go through these extremes, what I realized by studying various historical events is that at the extremes, either the angel in you comes out or the devil in you comes out. For those of us who are really blessed and we've been through some good times, we are not, if we are not impacted negatively, then I feel we are duty bound to do service to the others who are affected. And that's where I wanted to bring in this discussion of charity. Make charity your goal. Rao sir actually has an SIP running for a goal called charity. I would later request him to briefly talk about it, but he has a goal for charity. So include charity in your goals. And then the last stage or step, we talked about the 4 steps. One was liquidity, risk management, goals, and now the 4th step is the wealth transfer. After I am gone, I need to transfer my wealth to whoever. I mean, it's personal. I may decide to transfer the wealth to my family. Somebody may decide to transfer wealth to a larger number of people, including charity. Whatever you want to do, write down a will. Write down a will. A will is a document which states how your assets should be transferred after you are gone. It is your wish. In the absence of will, there are laws that the government of India has. Various succession acts are available, and they distribution of wealth will happen as per the law, not as per your wish. So be careful about that. Write down the will. When do you write the will? Write down the will the day you open the savings bank account, because that savings bank account is your first asset that you created. What if you not written a will so far? No problems, write it tomorrow. I mean, as soon as possible. No point in delaying that process. A lot of people think that I've nominated people in my investments, insurance policy, bank accounts, etc., etc. Oh yes. So first of all, bank account, bank lockers, investments, insurance policies, your demat account, your house property, any other property where the documents are, ownership documents are available. Everywhere you need to assign a nomination, but a nominee, and there are legal interpretations. I don't get into the legality, but a nomination may not give the ownership right to the nominee. Nomination is often an administrative facility for receipt, not the right to own. So keep nominations. It will make administratively easier, but also write a will. And so long as possible, align the two. So if I want to pass on my wealth to my wife and my kids, their names should be in the nominations. If I've done that much, it's good enough. It's good enough. So with this, I would now hand it over back to Rao sir for further discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amit. I think, friends, it would have been given a very clarity to us during unprecedented times. What are the few things we need to do, starting from the liquidity to the wealth transfer? I think all that we need to look at this point of a time is, do I have my contingency fund right? Do I have my health insurance right? And what are my anticipated expenditure over a period of next few years? What are the goals I am going to fund? What are the loans I am going to take? Which loan is good loan and which loan is bad loan? I think Amit ji has already explained to us, and how that bill we need to write it is a simple one. And the last one is the nominations, which he spoke about. But if you are writing a will be taking a minute or time for you. My request with everyone is spend some time with your family this weekend, see all your documents, whether you have at least proper nomination there, so that you are make sure that everything is in order. The biggest thing at the unprecedented times is keeping things in order. There are certain things, world is not in order, and what we can do is our profiles, our life is not in order, and we can go back and see what are that we can do. I think Stephen Covey says this, in a life what you can do, there is an area of concern, there is an area of influence. What is under my control, what is not under my control? The best thing is I can take over is what is under my control, then I can work on those things under my control. And I look at the first thing what I can do is I will create an emergency fund, a contingency fund. Contingency fund depending on the age of the life and the stage of the life you are in. And if you want to make it, it's a 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. You decide and how you want to do it. And you review your health insurance. See that whether you have a COVID coverage or get the COVID coverage at this point of time. Otherwise, it's a huge expenditure. We are going to do that. And most of us, we have tendency to stop our SIPs even without even looking at things. Please do ensure that your SIPs and STPs are continued, as far as if it is not impacting your financial side. If it is very urgent, then you can stop that. Otherwise, you just continue and do SIP and STPs in equity funds. And invest in equity for the long term. It is not for the short term. Looking at last 3 months rally, please never ever invest into the equity, and invest the money which is very long term. It's a 5 years plus kind of investment horizon you can look at. And I won't attempt to time the market. None of us can time the market. Probably today market could have been fallen because of yesterday's news, and it's not that it's how you need to do very very differently. And invest your short-term money in the debt funds or the short-term funds or a liquid funds or a cash funds, and including your contingency fund can go there. And I don't make any investments which you don't understand. Make an attempt to do it understanding. Today it's a question we are doing, and we are addressing on behalf of ET Money Gurukul, and it's you should get that edge every day morning. When I read, when I don't understand, I will reread. I think ET gets a supplement on Monday which is called ET Wealth. You get a lot of things to learn. I think in life there are 10 lessons of time we are doing with the Times of India, but there is 10 timeless lessons in the finance. First is, it does not matter how much, you need to start saving the money. And make one second lesson is, make your financial discussion as a household affair and make your financial plan. Third is manage manageable households and keep your emergency fund always in the first goal. And the financial goal, fourth lesson is always financial goals with the timelines and values. Each of us got a different, each goal got a timelines very different, and our values are very different. And fifth one is never ever compromise on your health insurance. And the sixth one is your financial responsibility is to be a shared responsibility of the family. We all need to come together and work on it. I think Amit ji said that earlier on the loans. And the seventh of timeless lessons in the finance is never, always borrow within the payable means. And eighth lesson, which I always used to say, is take advantage of the tax savings much ahead of time, not at the last minute. And ninth one is this is a hard-earned money. Have a fun with your money. After all, it is you worked hard for it. And the last but not the least, the 10th one is you always simplify your finances. And coming back, what is under your control is stick to your investment plan, irrespective of the market conditions. That's the best way to look at. And you do your financial goals and sit with your family and do that. And keep investment records, and writing should be your priority. With this, I can stop here, and we can I think I'll before I conclude, sometimes for our all health needs we go to a doctor when I fall ill, but to not to fall ill in the financials, I need to go to my financial advisor. Probably when it confusing, financial advisor can solve. And this initiative which you are doing with ET Money Gurukul is part of Invest Education Initiative from Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Incidentally, Amit ji, today it is a 5,500th program from Aditya Birla Sun Life IAP over a period of last few years.
Wow.
This is the 5,500th program. And friends, SEBI, which organizes regulator for the mutual funds and the stock markets, anything you have a complaint or your redressal, if you are not satisfied, there is a SEBI got a website called stores.gov.in, and there is a toll-free number. You can always write to the regulator all complaints related to the stock market or the mutual funds where it is need to be addressed. And we always say mutual funds are subject to market risk, and read that offer document before. And I conclude and invite further questions. Before we conclude, we always talk about SIP. I think earlier Amit ji was also telling about SIP. SIP is a systematic investment plan, but for me, SIP is save wisely, and IS is save wisely, I is invest rightly, and P is plan smartly. And going back, I think when Amit ji was talking about on charity, in fact, I do SIP in SIP in SIP. I do first S is savings. My contingency fund plan also, I keep money every month, which is going to my liquid fund, saving into the savings plan. And I do investing in my investment goals, which is my equity and long-term goals. And P is my planning, my investment for philanthropy, which is for my charity. I thought, it's better to create a pool of the money we can create for a charity and give it that to charity. With this, we stop here and we take questions from anyone. You can use the chat box for the questions. Amit ji and me would like to take, and you can please use the chat box for your questions.
So, sir, there are already a few questions. So let me
Yeah,
just.
Amit ji, I'll take this question for you.
Yes, whatever.
Yeah, this is the question. Thank you so much. I think, yeah. Oh, there is quite a good. Where shall I start? This is the first question. I start with Neha Patel. As the economy will take long time to recover, should I continue with my SIP?
My simple answer to this question would be: don't bother about the economy in the first place. Look at your requirements. So, and what I mean by requirements is two things. One is your goal, which is some long-term goal that you have, and second is your current situation. Are you saving right now or not? Are you generating surplus or not? If you are generating surplus, you have a need to park that surplus somewhere. Number two, if you have a goal in future, you need to anyway invest something for that long-term goal. Now, within that, if the economy has gone down, the possibility is very, very high that when you invest at such times, the returns are going to be better. Okay, that probability is very high. There's no guarantee though. However, just because the economy has gone down, should you stop your SIP? The answer is a clear no. So long as your cash flows permit, please continue with your SIPs.
Thank you, Amit. Thanks, Neha ji, for that question. In fact, the benefit of SIP we call is a rupee cost averaging. When things are at low, you need to acquire more. That's an opportunity. Next question comes from Rai Kishori Ganguly. I think, sorry if I pronounce wrongly. What percentage of my salary should I ideally save? Probably I'll take this question.
Yes, sir.
Like, there is a fundamental phenomena people will talk across the globe is save one third and live on one third and invest one third. If it is possible, that's a fantastic way to plan. 30% of the salary can I save, and in that 10% can go for investing in myself, and 10% can be investing for the long, 10% for other goals which I can go. I think that's what I can look at, but I can ask Amit to add anything more to it.
Sure. So, like, as much as possible is always the best answer. If you are able to save as much as possible. However, once again, I'll say do an assessment. How much you can save is always a function of how much you earn and how much you need to spend. And I am emphasizing on the word need to spend, because out of our spending, there is some amount of discretionary spending that we do. So there is mandatory spending and there is discretionary spending. So between the two, whatever is mandatory, you can't do anything, don't touch that. But what is discretionary, if you need to cut it down, please ensure that you can save as much as possible. But at this stage, I will also bring in, a slightly lighter tone, and I would talk about two movies in particular. One movie is Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, where Hrithik Roshan decides that he wants to retire at 40 and enjoy life. And because he wants to enjoy life after 40, he stops enjoying life in his 20s and 30s. Now that's one extreme. The other extreme was the movie Tara Rampam, where Saif Ali Khan, the race car driver, was enjoying life today without bothering about tomorrow. So one guy is spending everything today and borrowing today to enjoy that life without worrying about the future. The other guy was so stuck on the future that he stopped enjoying life today. Well, these are two extremes. All of us have to live our life between the two. You got to enjoy life today and you got to enjoy life tomorrow. And then work out how much discretionary spending you need to incur and what you can cut down. If you are not enjoying, cut it down. That's how I would say.
Thank you so much. It's a phenomenal and very profound. And it's always learning from the Bollywood. And incidentally, Amit has written a book on lessons from the, financial lessons from the Bollywood. What you can learn. I think it's a great fun read for every one of us. And this is another question coming from Ms. Patel again. We have a medical insurance with the company. Should we have one more medical insurance personally as well?
Yes. Most of the time, financial planners would recommend having an additional medical insurance policy on your own. I mean, just imagine a situation that if you want to take a sabbatical, for example, will that insurance be available when you quit the job? Or just look at that scenario. And sabbatical could be for any reason for anybody. Or you want to quit a job and become self-employed like I have become. It's always recommended to have another health insurance. But because you've taken insurance from the company, to each one out here, I would request, please ask your company to give you a copy of the insurance policy, read through it and understand what is covered and what is not covered, what are the conditions. Please understand those things.
But most of it is as of now, COVID coverage was not there in the earlier insurance policies, and now this COVID coverage, etc., which is coming at a much cheaper cost with a 15 days gap, it can get implemented. Probably it's advisable to go there for everyone. Here is a very interesting question coming from Mr. Mukesh Kumar, Amitji, and Mukesh is asking, what will happen if I forget to create a will before death? Unfortunately, Mr. Mukesh, after the death, we cannot create a will. Will be created while you are alive. And I have seen cases where corporates considered PF nomination details absence of the will. Just create lots of this will create lots of issues. Yes, you are right, but I'll ask Amit. Amit, how do you address? But for me, I always believe even you need to create a will the day you are getting into your first investment done, whichever the nomination, and keep revisiting your will every 1 year and when occasions like this. Hypothetically, in Indian context, we always used to feel husband dies first and wife dies later, and husband nominates wife. But I have seen in the COVID such a painful cases. I have seen the family of 5, 3 of them have gone, and it's the 2 of them, and nominations are in a mess. and it's very difficult for them to claim, and one cannot move out and go for the documentation done. It is such a pain. I think will is a serious document. Will is not just it's a wish. Will is something a legal document. I'll invite Amit to add whatever you from his side.
Sure, sir. Now, in the absence of will, which in the legal parlance it's called that the person has died intestate. In such a case, the law takes over, and the law says that, and there's many conditions, covenants, and there's a Hindu Succession Act, there's an Indian Succession Act, and there's Muslim personal law. Different religions have different laws applicable. And in such case, inter-religion marriages would make it even more complicated. So I'll not get into those complications, but just to take an example that in case of an Indian male's death, the husband, the children, and the mother, the wife, the children, and the mother are the first level of beneficiaries. So the money would be divided between them. And then it goes further to, Whereas in case of a woman's death, the first level of beneficiary is not from her parents' side at all. So both the men and women, there are different laws applicable. In such a case, it's better to those who have not yet done it. It's better to create the will as soon as possible. Otherwise, the money will come, but there are procedures, and different places will have different procedures. Now you're talking about PF. In case of PF, the EPFO's requirement and the company's requirements could be different. The recipient is duty bound to pass it on to the legal heirs. Now, whether that happens or not, whether there'll be claims or not, it could really become very, very messy. So that's how I would put it.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks, Amit, for that detailed answer. Friends, some of us, we always feel will is a very complicated document. It is not a very complicated document for many of us. When there is a complication of investments, complication of assets, complication of families, there it becomes complicated. Otherwise, the normal will, you can just download the format, you can write it. It need not be it need not be stamped, or it need not go for just you need a witness, then you can create that. And will is not equal to that I'm going to write my death warrant. It is like we need to write. And Amitji, this is another interesting question coming from Ms. Ganguly, which says, if my investment horizon is 10 years, should I opt for moderate risk or high risk options?
So the time horizon is only one of the factors to determine the risk profile for that particular investment. Typically, when you look at the risk profile, you need to look at three things. Number one, what is the need to take risk? And that need to take risk is a function of how much rate of return that you would be required for you to achieve your goal. Many calculators are available online, so we use that. But consider it as the 1 year bank deposit rate is the safe rate, and anything over and above that you want means you got to take risk to achieve your goal. Bigger the gap, higher the need for taking that risk. So there is need for taking the risk. The second is the ability to take risk, and within that ability comes the time horizon. Also, longer the time horizon, higher is the ability to take risk. But it is also a function of how much you are earning versus how much you are spending, how many assets you build versus how many liabilities that you have, the loans, etc., or commitments. How many members in the family are earning versus how many total family members are there. So that if there is a single income, 2 kids kind of a family, in such a case, there's only one earning member and 4 total members. So in that case, the risk profile becomes different versus somebody where 3 members are earning out of the 4, their risk profile is also different. Because if something happens to this one person who's the earning member of that family of 4, then the entire family's income is at risk. But if there are 3 members earning, if something happens to one, the other 2 are still earning. So to that extent, cash flow is only reduced and not completely eliminated. So the risk profile would change that way. So do an assessment of this need, ability. And the third factor is willingness to take risk. And this willingness is more psychological. I have nothing much to say on how the psychology operates. The only protection against that psychological factor is you know more about the risk, and then you'll be able in a better position to decide. But time horizon is only one factor, And with 10 years, moderate to high risk is not a problem. You can, I mean, if I were to look at only one factor, then moderate to high risk is okay for that time horizon.
Great. I think I'll move to the next question. There are a lot many questions. Probably I thought of adding something, but we can move on. This is a question from Mr. Manoj Nair. What would be the ideal ratio of investment between equity and debt in the current scenario? Probably, Mr. Manoj, it all depends on the goal at which you are looking at. Accordingly, you can look at it is not like, ideal ratio of equity debt. But if the broadly the investment philosophy, people will talk about your 100 minus your age should be the asset allocation. But if your long-term money is there, it has to go to equity. Your short-term, medium-term can go to the debt, and short-term can go to the liquid funds. There's the best way to look at. There's a question coming from Lavish Dugar. My mutual fund investments are taking a hit. How do I know which one to stop and which one to continue? I think Amit ji, I'll give this question to you.
Actually, this is a pretty long rather process to identify which funds are doing well, rather which funds you should get out of and not. All you are seeing or you are able to see is the investment performance or how the fund value has moved over the period. But there's a lot that you need to decide. Once again, it's not about what has happened in the past. It is what should happen in future, where the focus should come. Each scheme, each mutual fund scheme needs to be evaluated separately on its merit. And it's a pretty long discussion, but just to take an example of an equity fund, is your investment in a large cap fund or a small cap fund can make a difference. Is your portfolio very well diversified or very concentrated, makes a difference. Is your portfolio moving more than the market or less than the market, also makes a difference when it comes to taking decisions. When it comes to debt funds, you may also want to look at whether the average maturity of the debentures that the scheme has bought is long or short, or whether the credit rating of the securities or debentures is normally high or not so high. That also that factor can make a difference. So you got to look at various things. I've just given a few examples, but my sense is a good financial advisor is something that you may need in such case, and then simply take help. This is a detailed exercise. I can't really answer in very brief, so I'm sorry for that, sir.
Thank you. I think reaching the financial advisor is always good, and we can have all those conversations around. This is a question from Praveen Menon. Hi, I have been investing in SIP through SIP in equity, via SIP in equity funds. And as I coming close to 50 years, should I look at debt funds or continue with equity? Praveen, I would like to suggest something most of us never look at in the mindset of something, we are going to retire at 60 kind of it. It's like our longevity of life is very long. And it doesn't mean that even somebody need to retire. Even retiree person also need to put the money into the equity, because bit of a risk he always need to take, he or she always need to take it, because equity is the asset class which can create a wealth for us. You all need to look at your whole life goal, what you are looking at, which goal you are investing. If you don't need next 2 to 3 years requirement of money, if you are budgeting, that much is in debt is sufficient. Rest of the money can always move to the asset class which can give you a higher wealth. And in case you are planning for your retirement very differently, please do join us at Money Gurukul special session on the retirement, which is happening on the 25th September. I think Vivek and team will always communicate to us, and that you can go come and register. This is from my answer. Since a lot of questions are there, I'm just moving to the next. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, just one thing that I wanted to add out here is, as you go closer to your desired retirement age, so I'm assuming that you want to retire at 60, in such case, you may want to start some SIP in debt funds. You need not disturb the equity fund SIP. You need not disturb the equity fund investments, because as Rao sir was mentioning, your life in retirement could be pretty long. I mean, our longevity has gone up. So in that case, don't disturb your equity investments, but you start some SIP in debt funds, a small SIP, so that once you retire at 60, the 61, 62, 63, up to 65, those 4 or 5 years, money is available in that debt fund. So you create that fund. So that's what I would say. I just wanted to add to what Rao sir mentioned about those 2 or 3 years in debt. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Here is a question. I think you can answer this. Kamlesh Maru, so how to manage my EMI commitments during the lockdown if we have opted for a moratorium?
You already opted for moratorium. In that case, what has happened is while you saved in terms of your cash outflow, the interest has accumulated on that outstanding amount, and that will have to be paid in future at whatever is the interest rate on the loan, and depending on which loan it is. Now, not much is left. I think 30th September, the moratorium is getting over. The second round of moratorium is getting over. As of now, I don't know whether that could get extended or not. So at least I don't have any idea. But my sense is if you have been able to utilize this time period to generate some surplus, start paying that EMI in whatever way you can as soon as possible. So if you have to increase your, rather let's put it this way now, whatever is the term left, and if the bank gives you an option of either increasing the EMI amount or increasing the term of the amount by keeping the EMI constant, my request would be, if your cash flows permit, increase the amount of EMI, because in that case your interest burden starts going down in rupees terms. The faster you pay, your principal amount also reduces. So to that extent, going forward, your burden on the interest would start coming down. But that's what. If you already opted for moratorium, I think whatever 5-6 months have gone, that cannot be undone. Going forward, try to repay as fast as possible. However, if you have strain on the cash flow because of the economic downturn, then go and negotiate with the bank, reschedule the loan such that you get further relief in either reduction of EMI or by extending of the loan period, or if for some reason, just a glimmer of hope, if the bank is able to extend the moratorium if it is possible, but only in case there's a strain, not otherwise.
Right. Thank you so much, Amit. And this is a question. It's very interesting. The question from Mr. Mayank Chande, which is, which mutual fund investments good to get a monthly return post retirement over a period of next 10 to 15 years? Estimated return requirement per month was around 2 lakhs per month. Whether this is the right way to thinking from investment perspective, Mayank, I think we will be having a very detailed retirement session. Please do join us. 10 to 15 years is a very long term to, very reasonable term to plan for it. You can always get 2 lakhs to get per month. We will be talking about what could be your monthly withdrawal rate, how you can need to save, and how you need to plan. We have wonderful authors on the retirement planning who are going to join us, and it's a way to plan. And it's we will also be giving you a calculator as well as a book to download, ebook to download, and you can take it forward. And here is a question coming from Komal Bhatia. In these uncertain times, is it benefit to invest in high cost assets like buying a house when one is paying a monthly rent up to 50,000 per month? Amitji, would you like to address?
So actually, if you are living in a rented house, and if you want to buy your house, is this a good time to do that? Well, if you're getting a bargain, good idea to consider. If you are not getting a bargain, then actually the downturn or upturn has not really made any difference. If the downturn is giving you an opportunity to get a discount, good idea. That's number one. Number two, do you have enough surplus right now to make the down payment? And do you expect your monthly surplus to continue in future to service the loan EMIs? If the answers to these two questions are also in affirmative, then yes, buying a house and saving on EMI, saving on rentals is generally a good idea. It's just that it will put some strain on your liquidity. So do that liquidity assessment for now and the near future so that you are better able to take a decision. I'm normally a believer that if you are able to buy your own house to live as against the rented accommodation, it is a better idea. The only thing that I would caution against is if you already have an owned house and if you are considering second house, then you are not taking a decision from the expense point of view. You are only taking the decision from the investment point of view. Take that house and give it out on rent as soon as possible is what I would say. But otherwise, your question is about expense, a high cost. I'm saying yes, it's a good idea.
Thank you so much for the detailed answer, Amit. I think when we will paucity of time, we have a lot of questions. Maybe another 2, 3, I'll take it. And I'm not taking some questions which have come on the real estate side. And here is a question comes from Rajesh Kupchandani. Which one is better, term policy or endowment policy? I have been saving in endowment policy for last 8 years.
A term plan is the pure insurance policy or pure risk policy. So the idea is insurance versus investment are both dealing with one particular risk, and that one particular, or I'm talking about life insurance only when I talk about this insurance, that one particular risk is the date of death is not known. So if I die early, then the insurance policy claim amount would take care of the future requirement of my family. But if I live long, then my investment should take care of my life as well as my family's life. So that's the difference between investment and insurance. Endowment policy or many other such insurance policies combine the investment and insurance into one. And a lot of times that makes the product inefficient. From that point of view, a very large number of advisors would always recommend that keep the investment and insurance separately. And that means you buy a pure term insurance and not an endowment policy.
Thank you so much. I think this will be the last question I'll be taking. This is a question from Raj. Is this is the correct time to increase your existing investment SIPs? Raj, I think anytime you want to increase in SIPs, you can always look at, there is a provision in the mutual funds called step up SIP. Also, you can give an auto mode, they can increase. But in the downturn where I have capability is more, I think it's always better to add new SIP amount to increase. So that you are getting more units allotted during the market downtimes, and that way you can look at. It's a fairly good. I think there is one more last question on IRDA is there on the insurance, but I think earlier Mr. Rajesh question is Amit has answered on this. Why IRDA to promote term insurance? Probably let me not talk on the regulators, but it's all.
Yeah.
This is a Gurukul session. It's all as a investors, we need to be our own students, and we need to be a learning should be a lifetime. Whether it's a COVID or no COVID, learning about money should be an ongoing exercise for us, and it's a time for us to look very differently. And I think there is one question. It's not the question; it's a compliment, Amit ji. Thanks, Mr. Praveen. Thank you for Praveen is writing. Thanks, Praveen Menon. Thanks for this session. Is very useful, and look forward to joining you on 25th September. Yes, Praveen, we definitely look forward to. And a happy Onam. I think Onam celebrations are just still on. We are just 3rd or 4th day of the Onam, and it can go. Friends, this is unprecedented times, no doubt. There is a social distancing which we preach about. We practice for our immunity of health, and we need to look at immunity of our finances and immunity from the social distance like that. We need to have some kind of emotional distance on investments, and we need to look our life goals is very differently. I used a term MASK. We all need to wear the mask. This mask for the money is something like this. M is manage your wealth. A with right. A is your asset allocation. S is a staggered investment, that is your SIP, and K is have a right knowledge so that you can keep an eye on your contingency and on your health insurance. And hope we are all useful to you this afternoon. And I thank ET Money Gurukul for this opportunity and a platform. On behalf of Aditya Birla Asset Management, I wish you all the good health. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay wealthy too. And I sincerely thank Amit for taking his time and joining. Thanks for each one of you for joining us. And thank you so much. I think thanks, Mr. Manoj, for the compliments. Thanks, Mr. Vishwanath Tiwari. And over to Karan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. That was a very, very illuminating, eye-opening session. And I'm sure that all the questions posed by our many, many audience members would surely have helped to illuminate the way for others as well, who might have had similar questions. It was the kind of session that a lot of us need because, of course, while wealth has been eroded over the course of this entire pandemic, we have to keep an eye towards the future, keep an eye towards the long term, and continue to build our wealth, continue to build our knowledge, and continue to build for the future. Thank you to all of you for being here with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Rao, Mr. Trivedi, for giving us so graciously your time. And we hope to see all of you again sometime soon. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you.